engine from your people. Nevertheless, intervention is required. The architect gestured, and holographic displays activated throughout the chamber, showing footage from across the galaxy. Council colonies failing. Council citizens unable to cope with minor environmental variations. Council military forces that had not faced real combat in generations, struggling with basic tactical situations. The galaxy requires renewal, the architect stated. Humanity provides an opportunity. We propose a test. Marcus felt every human in the chamber tense. When beings like the architects propose tests, civilizations either ascended or ended. What kind of test? He asked carefully. The architect's form shifted, and a new image appeared. A planet hung in space, its surface scarred and violent, covered in storm systems that dwarfed anything on Earth. A facility was recently discovered on the Galactic Rim. It is a proving ground built by our predecessors 10,000 years ago to test species for worthiness. The environmental classification is Class 15, more hostile than Earth. The chamber erupted in protest. Class 15 meant instant death for most Council species, even with full environmental protection. We propose a competition, the architect continued, ignoring the chaos. The Council will send their finest team. Humanity will send these students. The first to reach the facility's core and retrieve the data archive wins. If humans prevail, Earth gains immediate Council membership and a permanent seat. If the Council team wins, Earth's application is denied permanently. Velmuth's voice trembled. Sending anyone to a Class 15 world is murder. We cannot agree to such terms. Except, Ben said. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. It cannot be serious, Chisra whispered from the gallery. Class 15 environments are beyond survival. Even your death world is only Class 12. You would be volunteering for execution. Ow. Ben looked at his fellow students. Lisa nodded. Frank showed a slight smile. Maya's expression remained calm. Tom checked his medical kit like he was preparing for a routine mission. Alex simply said yes. We accept, all 6 humans said together. Marcus looked at his students with an expression mixing pride and deep concern. He turned back to the architect. When does this test begin? Tomorrow. The galaxy will watch. Let us see which philosophy survives when safety meets reality. The architect's form began to fade, reality knitting back together where it had been. Prepare well, humans. And Council, choose your champions wisely. This test will determine more than Earth's membership. It will determine whether galactic civilization has a future at all. The transmission ended. Across 1,000 worlds, trillions of beings processed what they had witnessed. Humanity had accepted a challenge that should terrify them. They had walked into certain death with the same calm they showed entering the Council chamber, and somewhere in deep space. An ancient facility waited to judge them all. The transport ship carrying both teams arrived at the planet designated in ancient records as the Proving Ground. Every screen across the galaxy showed the live feed. The viewership numbers had exceeded every historical record. Trillions of beings watched, waiting to see what would happen when Council. Civilization met a challenge it could not control away. The planet itself looked like nature's rage given form. Massive storm systems larger than gas giants swirled across the surface. Lightning arced between clouds and streams of energy that could power cities. The scanners transmitted data that made Council technicians check their instruments repeatedly. Certain there must be errors. Gravity measured at 1.4 times Earth's standard. The atmosphere was dense with oxygen levels that were toxic to most species, mixed with sulfur compounds that would burn Volthari lungs in seconds. Surface temperatures swung from -40 Celsius in the polar storms to +65 at the equator. Seismic sensors detected tectonic activity that made Earth look geologically stable, and biological scans revealed heat signatures, suggesting predators larger than anything in Council databases. The Council had chosen their team carefully. Commander Rethanel led them, the strongest Korthon warrior their species could produce. Specialist Chisra had volunteered despite her injuries, determined to prove her worth. Engineer Dorvin brought the intellectual genius of the Drexel people. And Tactical Officer Kresh represented the Thorak, a reptilian species considered aggressive by Council standards, but still civilized enough for membership. They wore environmental suits that cost more than most planetary economies, powered exoskeletons to handle the crushing gravity, atmospheric processors to filter the toxic air, medical support systems monitoring every vital sign, comprehensive sensor arrays to detect threats, plasma weapons to deal with the predators, every advantage Council technology could provide. The human students boarded their shuttle wearing academy uniforms and carrying basic packs. No powered suits, no exotic weapons, no advanced protection systems. Just standard survival gear, water, food, tools, medical supplies, environmental monitors. Chisra watched the human shuttle on her team's monitors and felt her stomach twist. They are going to die in the first hour. This is not courage. This is suicide. Rethanel's mental voice was grim as he checked his exoskeleton's power levels. Perhaps? Or perhaps the architect wants to show the galaxy what happens when primitive confidence meets reality. Either way, we must focus on our own survival. The descent began. The Council's shuttle fought the atmosphere like a ship in a hurricane. Turbulence hammered the craft despite stabilization systems designed to handle any known environmental condition. Inside, the team was already being pushed to their limits before even landing. The gravity crushed down despite the exoskeletons. Chisra's breathing was labored. Dorvan's water tank had to be reinforced against the pressure. Even Rethanel's telepathic abilities were being suppressed by the sheer physical stress. The human shuttle descended through the same atmospheric chaos with its stabilizers barely engaged. Inside, the students sat calmly, running through equipment checks. Gravity feels heavy, Ben noted, flexing his hands. About 1.4 G, like wearing a weighted vest during training. Lisa checked atmospheric readings. Oxygen is rich, but the sulfur compounds are nasty. We will need breathing filters, but not full respirators. Should be manageable. Frank studied the tactical displays. Multiple large predators detected, probably apex hunters with no natural enemies. The facility is 47 kilometers from our projected landing zone through jungle terrain. Maya pulled up topographical maps. Council team is landing 60 kilometers from their entry point on the opposite side of the facility. Different terrain, different challenges. Tom reviewed medical protocols. Unknown pathogens are likely. Our immune systems should handle most bacteria better than Council species, but we stay careful with injuries. Alex analyzed the ecosystem data streaming in. Everything here evolved to kill. The plants look carnivorous. The weather systems are actively hostile. This planet makes Earth look friendly. Ben looked at his team. So, just like training then. They smiled. Not from bravado, but from genuine comfort. This was what Earth had prepared them for. The shuttles landed. The Council team touched down in a clearing. Their automated systems had carved with plasma cutters, burning away the dangerous vegetation before allowing the ship to settle. They emerged slowly, exoskeletons whining under the gravity, sensors sweeping for immediate threats. The jungle pressed in around them, alien and hostile. Trees the size of skyscrapers blocked out the sky. Vines thick as ship cables hung between branches. The air smelled of rot and sulfur. And everywhere, movement. Things watching from the shadows. Things waiting. The human shuttle landed on a natural rock outcropping, the bare stone providing a clear zone. The students stepped out into hell and took deep breaths through their filters. The gravity pulled at them, making every movement require conscious effort. The heat and humidity were oppressive even through their basic environmental gear. The sounds of the jungle were a symphony of predator calls, prey screams, and the rustle of things moving through dense undergrowth. Maya said quietly, if home was actively trying to eat us. They assembled quickly, checking gear and confirming the plan. Move fast. Stay together. Reach the facility before the Council team. The galaxy was watching. And Earth's future depended on what happened in the next hours. The Council team began their journey with military precision. Rethanel led, his combat training evident in every movement despite the gravity. They followed their sensors, taking the optimal route calculated by their navigation systems. When they encountered obstacles, they used their technology to overcome them. Plasma cutters cleared vegetation. Gravitic lifts helped them traverse difficult terrain. Their advanced suits did the work their bodies could not. 1 hour into the trek, they encountered their first predator. The creature was massive, armored in scales like metal plates, bioluminescent markings along its flanks and claws the size of human torsos. The sensors classified it as a pack hunter based on pheromone signatures. Tactical officer. Kresh fired his plasma weapon with perfect military precision. The shot hit the creature's center mass, and it died instantly, its armored body collapsing with a ground-shaking impact. But the sound attracted others. Within minutes, the team was surrounded by 6 more of the creatures, all circling with Prodetto. Intelligence. They fought efficiently, their weapons superior to anything the planet could produce. Plasma bolts lit up the jungle. Each shot found its target. Each predator fell. But the fight drained suit power reserves. Combat consumed time, and the planet kept sending more. The human team moved through the jungle like they had been born to it. They used the terrain instead of fighting it, flowing around obstacles rather than removing them. When sensors detected predators ahead, they altered course. When avoidance was impossible, they did not fight. They misdirected. A pack of the same armored hunters cornered them near a cliff edge. Instead of engaging with weapons, Ben analyzed the situation in 3 seconds. The cliff was unstable volcanic rock. The predators were heavy. He placed shaped charges at precise structural points while the team slowly backed toward the edge. The lead predator charged. Ben triggered the charges. The cliff face came down in a controlled avalanche, and the predators fled from the sudden geological chaos. No shots fired. No power wasted. No time lost fighting when they could be moving. 3 hours into the challenge, the council team reached the volcanic highlands. The temperature spiked to 60 degrees Celsius. Chizra was suffering despite her suit's climate control. Her Velthari biology was not designed for such extremes. Dorvan's water tank was showing stress fractures from the constant environmental punishment. They were forced to slow down, to rest, to let their suits compensate for conditions that were pushing the technology to its limits. The human team reached the same highlands, and Tom immediately distributed thermal regulation supplements, salt tablets to prevent dehydration, specialized hydration packs designed for extreme heat, techniques developed over centuries of humans working in Earth's deserts. They stripped down to minimal clothing, covered exposed skin with improvised sun protection, and kept moving. The heat was unpleasant, like walking through an oven, but it was not impossible. Earth had places this hot. Humans had learned to function there. Death Valley trained us for this, Lisa commented, naming one of Earth's most hostile deserts. Just keep hydration up and keep moving. 5 hours in, a massive electrical storm hit the highland region. Lightning struck the ground around both teams with thunderous force. The energy discharges were so powerful, they left molten glass craters in the rock. The council team was forced to take shelter in a cave system. Their suits' electronics vulnerable to the electromagnetic pulses. They huddled in the darkness, waiting for the storm to pass, precious time slipping away. The human team kept walking. They used metal detectors to identify areas with the highest strike probability and avoided them. They moved between lightning strikes, timing their movements with precision, learned from surviving Earth's own deadly electrical storms. When strikes came close, they felt the hair on their arms stand up, smelled ozone in the air.
Bud.
Kept their nerve and kept moving. Alex navigated using brief glimpses of stars between lightning flashes. Lisa identified plant life that indicated stable ground versus areas where the next strike would likely hit. Frank scouted ahead, reading the terrain with instincts developed over generations of human ancestors who survived by understanding their environment. 7 hours after landing, the human team reached the ancient facility's entrance. The structure loomed before them, massive and dark, covered in warning symbols in dead languages. The entrance was sealed with a puzzle lock, ancient technology designed to test intelligence and problem-solving. Ben studied the mechanism while his team provided security. The lock was complex, combining mathematical sequences with physical manipulation. linguistic patterns with spatial reasoning. It was designed to challenge any species. It's attempting entry. Ben solved it in 14 minutes. The door opened with a sound like the planet itself sighing. Ancient air rushed out, stale and cold. The students activated their lights and entered darkness that had existed for 10,000 years. Behind them, the council team was still hours away from their entrance point, struggling through hostile terrain while carrying an injured teammate. Chizra had collapsed, her bones fractured by the relentless gravity. Rethanel carried her now, but their progress had slowed to a crawl. Inside the facility, the human team descended into the unknown. The ancient structure immediately began testing them. Gravity fluctuations forced them to adapt their movements constantly. Temperature swings from freezing to scorching happened within meters. Automated defense systems activated. Mechanical guardians from a dead civilization was programmed to challenge intruders, but the students moved through it all. With the same calm efficiency they had shown since landing, crisis response training from childhood. Emergency procedures drilled into muscle memory. The ability to function in chaos because Earth had taught them that safety was an illusion and adaptation was survival. They went deeper into the facility, toward the core, toward whatever waited in the darkness. The galaxy watched as 6 students from a death world descended into hell itself, and wondered what they would find. The ancient facility stretched downward into the planet's crust like the roots of a mechanical tree. The human students moved through corridors that had not seen light in 10 millennia, their headlamps cutting through darkness so complete it seemed solid. The walls were covered in hieroglyphics from a civilization that had achieved technology far beyond current galactic standards, then vanished for reasons no one understood. The facility's defense systems activated as soon as the students penetrated the first security threshold. Automated guardians emerged from wall recesses, machines built with terrible efficiency and singular purpose. They moved with mechanical precision, weapon systems designed to eliminate intruders. The students scattered into defensive positions with practiced coordination. Frank assessed the tactical situation in seconds. Weapons fire will attract more. Amy, can you hack their command protocols? Maya was already working, her portable computer interfacing with technology thousands of years old. The code architecture is strange, but the logic is mathematical. Give me 90 seconds. Tom and Alex provided cover, not with weapons, but with obstacles. They overturned ancient equipment, creating barriers. They used the corridor's geometry to limit approach angles. They made the environment work for them, while Maya's fingers flew across her keyboard. Got it, she announced. The Guardians froze mid-attack, their programming overridden. Route is clear for approximately 10 minutes before the system resets. Move now, they ran. The facility seemed to respond to their progress, adjusting challenges based on their capabilities. Gravity fluctuated wildly, forcing them to adapt their movements every few meters. One moment they bounded through near zero G, the next they crawled under forces that approached to Earth gravities. Lisa analyzed the pattern. The gravity shifts are not random. They are testing our adaptability. The facility is measuring us. For what? Ben asked, helping Tom through a particularly brutal high-G section. Worthiness, maybe, or classification. This is an evaluation system. They encountered a chamber filled with toxic gas, chemical compounds that would dissolve Velthari lungs in seconds. Their breathing filters handled it. They crossed a bridge over a chasm filled with what looked like molten metal but registered temperatures cold enough to freeze nitrogen solid, some kind of exotic matter beyond current understanding. They did not try to understand it. They simply crossed quickly and kept moving. The council team finally reached their entrance point on the facility's opposite side. Rethanel lowered Chizra carefully to the ground. The Velthari student was barely conscious, her body broken by the journey. Dorvan's water tank had developed serious leaks. Even Kresh, the warrior species, was exhausted beyond anything he had experienced. They opened their entrance using brute force. Plasma cutting through the ancient seal. It worked, but it triggered deeper security protocols. The facility recognized destructive entry and responded with enhanced countermeasures. Automated defenses swarmed them, immediately. Rethanel fought with telepathic precision, his mental powers guiding Kresh's weapon fire to hit targets before they could attack. Dorvan provided technical support despite his failing life support. But Chisra could not contribute. She lay on the cold floor, her suit's medical systems keeping her alive but nothing more. "We cannot continue like this," Rethanel projected to his team. "The human team has hours of head start. They likely have already reached the core. This challenge is lost." "Then we complete it for pride," Kresh growled, his reptilian features set with determination. "We represent the Council. We do not surrender." They pushed forward, but every meter was a battle. The facility punished their destructive entry with increasing hostility. More guardians, more environmental hazards, more tests they were not equipped to pass. The human students reached a chamber that pulsed with strange energy. In the center, floating in a stasis field, was the data archive. Ancient knowledge preserved across millennia. Technology that could change everything the galaxy understood about physics, engineering, biology, but there was something else. A holographic figure materialized. Humanoid, but angular, mathematical. The same impossible perfection as the architect who had proposed this challenge. But this one felt older, more fundamental. Like looking at the blueprint from which the architects themselves had been built. "Well, come, survivors," the ancient hologram said. Its voice carried harmonics that made the air vibrate in patterns human ears could barely process. "You have reached the core. In 10,000 years, 147 species attempted this trial. All failed. All perished. Until you," Ben stepped forward cautiously. "What is this place?" "A proving ground. A filter. A test to determine which species deserve to advance beyond mere survival to true understanding." The hologram gestured, and the walls became transparent, showing images of countless alien species attempting the facility's challenges. All dying, all failing. Species with advanced technology, powerful weapons, superior numbers. None had succeeded. "What makes us different?" Lisa asked. "You're not different. You are what they all were before they chose comfort over challenge. Before they eliminated danger and called it progress, you are what they forgot how to be." Alex studied the hologram carefully. "You are measuring something specific, not strength, not intelligence." "What?" The ancient being's form seemed to smile, if geometry could smile. "Choice. When faced with survival or principle, what do you choose? When offered advancement or compassion, which path do you take?" Before anyone could respond, alarms shrieked through the facility. The display walls showed the council team's position. They were in serious trouble. Dorvan's water tank had failed completely. The Drexel engineer was suffocating in the air, his aquatic biology unable to process oxygen the way humans did. Chisra had stopped responding to medical stimulation. Rethanol and Kresh were trying desperately to save their teammates, but the facility's defenses showed no mercy. Automated guardians surrounded them, weapons charging for lethal strikes. Tom checked the facility map. "We can reach them. 18 minutes at full run through active defense zones." "But the archive," Maya said, looking at the floating data core. "If we leave now, we might not be able to return." The facility could seal the core again. The choice crystallized in that moment. Everything Earth had worked for, everything humanity needed to prove their worth to the galaxy, everything they had risked their lives to achieve, all of it was right there, floating in that stasis field, and none of it mattered more than the people dying in the corridors above. "Move out," Ben ordered. "All of us. Now." "The trial is not complete," the ancient hologram warned. "Interference may disqualify you. The archive would be sealed again for another age. Humanity's chance would be lost." Frank was already checking his gear, preparing for combat. "Then we lose. Not for the first time, probably not for the last. But we do not abandon people who need help. That is not what Earth taught us." The 6 students turned away from everything they came to claim and sprinted toward the dying council team. The ancient hologram watched them go, and if an entity of pure mathematics and ancient programming could feel surprise, it felt it then. The human team ran through corridors filled with active defenses. Guardians attacked, and they fought back with brutal efficiency, not stopping to finish fights, just creating enough chaos to get past. Environmental hazards activated, and they endured them, accepting injury to maintain speed. Tom's arm was burned by an energy weapon. Lisa took a fall in a gravity fluctuation that left her limping. They kept running. They reached the council team with minutes to spare. The automated guardians were preparing final strikes. Rethanol had positioned himself over Chisra's body, ready to die protecting her. Kresh stood back to back with Dorvan's failing form, the warrior species making his last stand. Ben's team hit the guardians from behind with coordinated precision. Not with superior weapons, but with Earth-learned tactics. They used the facility's own systems against the machines, triggering environmental hazards to disable guardians, collapsing corridor sections to trap others. Tom reached Dorvan first, his medical training kicking in automatically. Drexel physiology was complex, but the principle was simple. Get water to the gills. He used their drinking water supply, precious and limited, dumping it directly into Dorvan's breathing apparatus. Emergency field medicine that should not work according to proper protocols, but worked because sometimes desperation and knowledge were enough. Lisa stabilized Chisra, her xenobiology expertise, allowing her to work with Valtteri biology despite never having treated one in field conditions. She improvised splints from equipment. She administered human painkillers, calibrated by guess and hope to alien metabolism. It was crude, dangerous, and it kept Chisra alive. Why? Rethanel's mental voice was weak with exhaustion and confusion. You had one. The archive was yours. Why return for us? Ben helped the Korthon commander to his feet, supporting his weight easily despite the high gravity. Because that is what humans do. Earth taught us that survival is not about being strongest. It is about being strong enough to help others survive too. They made their way back through the facility together, humans carrying their former opponents, protecting them from the very defenses they had already overcome once. Every step was harder. Every challenge was more difficult. They were exhausted, injured, running on reserves they did not know they had, but they kept moving. They reached the core chamber again. The ancient hologram was waiting. The data archive still floated in its stasis field, untouched. You returned, the ancient being observed. Interesting. Ben approached cautiously, the council team members behind him in various states of injury and exhaustion. We came back for what we left behind. Are we too late? The trial is complete, the hologram stated. You reached the core. You could have claimed the archive. You chose rescue over reward, so we failed? Lisa asked. The ancient being's form seemed to expand, to become more present somehow. 10,000 years. 147 species. All tried to claim the archive through strength, cunning, speed. All believed the trial was about reaching the core first. All failed because they did not understand the trial's purpose. The chamber's walls became transparent again, showing the history of failed attempts. Species abandoning teammates to gain advantage. Teams sacrificing members to reach the goal. Civilizations demonstrating that when faced with choice between advancement and compassion, they would always choose advancement. The archive contains technology beyond your understanding, the hologram continued. Power to reshape reality. Knowledge to transcend physical law. Given to species that value achievement over life, such tools become weapons of extinction. The trial was never about reaching the core. It was about what you do when you get here. The data archive pulsed with light and began to move, floating slowly toward Ben. You succeeded because you understood what all others forgot. Civilization is not built by being strongest. It is built by choosing to protect the weak. Advancement means nothing if you lose your compassion in the pursuit of it. The archive settled into Ben's hands, warm and surprisingly light. Take this knowledge. Share it with your galaxy. Teach them what they have forgotten, or let them destroy themselves through their own comfort. The choice is yours. The ancient hologram began to fade, but before it disappeared completely, It spoke one last time. Humanity is what this galaxy needs. Not because you are strong, though you are. Not because you are intelligent, though you are. But because you remember that strength without compassion is just violence, and intelligence without wisdom is just clever ways to fail. The facility's defenses deactivated. The corridors fell silent. The path to the surface was clear. The human students helped the council team members walk, carrying those who could not, supporting those who struggled. They emerged from the ancient facility together as a storm broke across the planet's surface. Rain fell in sheets, washing away the dust and blood of the challenge. 2 shuttles waited. The galaxy watched. And Earth's students stood with their former opponents, proving not through victory but through choice what humanity truly was, the Council. Chamber assembled 18 hours after both teams returned from the proving ground. The massive space was filled beyond capacity. Representatives from every member species attended in person rather than by hologram. The proceedings were being broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Viewership numbers reaching levels that crashed data networks on a dozen worlds. High Arbitrator. Velmuth's crystalline form had shifted to a color the translators struggled to interpret. Something between humility and wonder. He spoke to the chamber with a voice that carried none of its previous certainty. This council has reviewed all evidence from the Proving Ground trial. We have consulted with the architect observers. We have heard testimony from our own team members who were present. And we have reached decisions that will change the structure of galactic civilization. The chamber fell into absolute silence. First, all charges against student Ben Hayes are dismissed with full apology from this council. His actions during the Academy incident were not assault, but rescue performed under conditions we did not understand. We judged a Death World species by Paradise World standards. This was not merely unfair. It was foolish. Velmuth's structure brightened. Second, the Council acknowledges that our evaluation of Earth was fundamentally flawed. We classified Earth as a death world, and used that classification to justify dismissing humanity as primitive. We failed to understand that surviving such a world requires not primitiveness, but extraordinary capability. Ben stood before the Council with his team, no longer in the accused circle, but on the main floor as equals. Beside them stood the Council team members, recovered but changed. Chisaran no longer trembled when she looked at Ben. Instead, she stood as close to the humans as her recovering injuries allowed, finding comfort in the presence of those who had saved her life. Third, Velmuth continued, humanity's application for Galactic Council membership is accepted immediately. Furthermore, Earth is granted a permanent council seat, bypassing all traditional probationary requirements. We offer this not as favor, but as recognition of demonstrated worth. The chamber erupted in a mix of celebration and protest. Velmuth raised his crystalline appendages for silence. There is more. The Council extends an unprecedented invitation. We request human advisors to join Council operations in emergency response, colony management, military training, and educational reform. We have much to learn from a species that made strength from suffering and compassion from struggle. Ambassador Marcus Webb stepped forward. High Arbitrator, Earth accepts Council membership with gratitude, but we have conditions for the advisory positions. A ripple of surprise moved through the chamber. Velmuth's structure flickered. Name your terms, Ambassador. First, humans operating in Council space will no longer be required to wear environmental restriction suits. You will adapt to our presence as much as we adapt to yours. We will not make ourselves small to make you comfortable. Velmuth considered, then nodded. Agreed. Second, the Academy curriculum requires reform, but we will not dictate changes. We offer Earth as a training ground for any Council species willing to learn how Death World natives prepare their young. Attendance is voluntary. Standards are not. Agreed. Marcus paused before the final condition. Third, and this is not negotiable. Any species that sends students to Earth must understand what they are requesting. Our training will push your people beyond limits they did not know existed. It will be uncomfortable. It will be difficult. Some will fail. But those who succeed will return to your world stronger than your species has been in thousands of years. Do you accept these terms?" The chamber filled with whispered discussions. Velmuth consulted with his fellow council members through channels humans could not perceive. Finally, he spoke. "We accept. With one addition, I wish to be among the first to train on Earth." The statement caused an uproar. A high arbitrator of the council volunteering to submit to human training. Unthinkable, unprecedented. Velmuth's crystalline structure turned a determined blue that needed no translation. "I have led this council in judging humanity unfairly. I will lead this council in learning from our mistakes. If Earth's training is truly valuable, I will prove it by example." Commander Rethinol stepped forward, his mental voice strong and clear. "I also volunteer. The Korthon military has not faced real challenges in generations. We have forgotten what it means to be tested. I will remember, and I will teach my people what I learn." Chizra raised her voice, still weak from injury, but firm in conviction. "I volunteer as well. I called humans violent because I did not understand that gentleness from the strong is harder than violence. I want to learn that strength." One by one, representatives from across the council volunteered: students, scientists, warriors. The volunteers numbered in the hundreds within minutes, thousands within the hour. 6 months later, everything had changed. The Galactic Academy had been restructured completely. Human instructors now taught classes that would have been considered impossible before Earth's arrival. Emergency response training was mandatory. Physical fitness standards had been raised. Environmental challenges replaced perfectly controlled laboratory exercises. The first month saw massive dropout rates. Council species students who expected gentle education faced reality for the first time in their civilization's history. Nearly 40% quit within the first week. But those who remained discovered something profound. They discovered that they were capable of far more than their comfortable societies had ever asked of them. A young Veltheri student completed her first high gravity obstacle course and experienced an emotion her species had not felt in millennia. Not relief at surviving, but pride in achievement earned through genuine difficulty. She cried and later explained to her instructor that her tears came from joy at discovering she was stronger than she believed possible. Korthon military officers learned human combat doctrine and realized their warfare tactics had not evolved in 1,000 years because they had faced no real opposition. They returned to their homeworld and began revolutionary changes in military training. Drexel engineers worked alongside human technicians and learned to ask not what is the perfect solution, but what solution actually works given available resources and time constraints. Their approach to problem solving shifted from theoretical optimization to practical implementation. On Earth, the first council species colony was established in the Amazon rainforest. The location was chosen specifically because it represented moderate difficulty by human standards. While being classified as extreme hazard by council metrics, the colonists struggled in the heat, the humidity, the constant presence of insects and predators and diseases. They adapted. Slowly, painfully, with human advisors teaching them techniques developed over generations. They learned to identify edible plants and dangerous ones. They learned to predict weather patterns and respond to emergencies. They learned that safety came not from perfect conditions, but from competence in difficult ones. The colony thrived. Within 6 months, it was self-sufficient. Within a year, it was expanding. Council observers studying the colony's success realized something that should have been obvious. Humans did not succeed despite Earth's hostility, but because of it. Ben Hayes became the youngest council ambassador in recorded history, working alongside Marcus Webb to coordinate human council integration. His first major initiative was establishing joint exploration missions to Deathworld planets across the galaxy. Worlds that had been classified as uninhabitable were suddenly targets for human-led colonization efforts. The expeditions included council species volunteers who learned to function in environments their ancestors would have considered impossible. A Valthari scientist named Liaresh, who had never experienced natural weather before training on Earth. stood in a thunderstorm on a Class 11 world, and laughed with pure joy as lightning painted the sky. She later wrote that feeling rain without a protective suit for the first time made her understand why humans. Saying about storms. Dr. Lisa Park lead medical research teams, combining galactic medicine's technological sophistication with human medicine's practical flexibility. The phrase she used in her first major presentation to council medical authorities became famous. Your medicine is very good at what it does in perfect conditions. Human medicine is very good at what it does when everything has gone wrong. The collaboration produced remarkable results. Colony mortality rates dropped by 38% in the first year. Disease response protocols became faster and more effective. Battlefield medicine improved dramatically as human techniques for treating injuries under impossible conditions merged with galactic cellular regeneration technology. Captain Frank Stone became military liaison to the Council Defense Forces. The first war games between human and Council forces ended with humans winning 93% of engagements. Council military observers were horrified and impressed in equal measure. But by the second year, as Council forces adapted and learned, human victory rates dropped to 62%. The Council was learning, growing, becoming dangerous again. The ancient data archive from the Proving Ground transformed galactic technology. But humanity insisted on sharing the knowledge freely rather than hoarding it for advantage. Knowledge kept secret is knowledge wasted, Marcus told the Council. Earth learned that lesson through centuries of unnecessary suffering. Do not repeat our mistakes. The archive contained warnings as well as wonders. Records of civilizations that chose comfort over challenge. Species that retreated into virtual paradises and forgot how to exist in physical reality. Empires that achieved technological perfection and then stagnated, unable to advance further because they had eliminated all evolutionary pressure. The Council saw itself reflected in those warnings. They saw the path they had been following, the slow, comfortable decline into irrelevance, and they chose differently. High Arbitrator Velmuth returned from 6 months of training on Earth transformed. His crystalline structure had been modified at the molecular level by exposure to variable gravity. Changing temperatures and constant physical challenge, he moved differently now. With efficiency that startled Council members who remembered his previous graceful but fragile movements, he addressed the Council with new authority. I have experienced what Earth demands of its children. I have felt what it means to be tested every day. I have learned the difference between comfort and capability. His structure flashed with colors that spoke of hard-earned wisdom. The galaxy was dying. Slowly, safely, comfortably dying, humanity arrived at exactly the moment we needed them most. Not as conquerors, though they could have been. Not as saviors, though they became that. But as teachers, reminding us of truths we had forgotten. 1 year after Earth's acceptance into the Council, a joint session was held on Earth itself. The location was carefully chosen. Yosemite Valley in California, one of Earth's great natural wonders. No domed chambers. No controlled environments. Just open air, natural gravity. Unfiltered sunlight. Council representatives attended, with varying levels of environmental support, but all attended. They stood under Earth's sky and felt what humans felt every day. The weight of real gravity. The unpredictability of weather, the vast indifference of nature to their comfort or survival, and they understood. The meeting concluded with an announcement that shocked the galaxy. The Council had voted unanimously to establish the Combined Civilization Initiative. The CCI would coordinate efforts to resettle Council species on more challenging worlds, reform education systems across all member civilizations, and establish Earth as the primary training ground for emergency response specialists, explorers, and military personnel. We're not abandoning our comfortable worlds, Velmuth explained to the assembled representatives and to the billions watching across the galaxy. We are choosing to remember that comfort is earned, not given. That safety is maintained through competence, not avoidance. That civilization advances through challenge, not retreat. In the years that followed, the changes accelerated. Council species that had been static for millennia began producing innovations at rates not seen in their recorded history. Artistic movements exploded as beings who had been comfortable discovered the creative power of struggle and triumph. Scientific breakthroughs occurred with increasing frequency as researchers learned to value practical solutions over theoretical perfection. The galaxy was waking up on Earth. In the same council chamber where Ben Hayes had once stood accused of assault, a new memorial was dedicated. It showed 6 human students and 4 council team members emerging together from the Proving Ground facility, supporting each other under alien reign. The inscription was simple. Civilization is measured not by the strength of its mightiest, but by its willingness to carry its weakest. On this principle, humanity and the council built a future together. Ben stood at the memorial's unveiling alongside Chisra, who now served as Velthari ambassador to Earth. They had become friends during her long recovery, and she had chosen to remain on Earth after healing, fascinated by the world that had produced such remarkable beings. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had just taken the archive and left you?" Ben asked quietly. Chisra's graceful form had strengthened during her time in Earth's gravity. She no longer needed support systems for basic movement. "Yes, we would have died in that facility. The Council would have blamed humanity. Earth would have been quarantined. The galaxy would have continued its slow decline into irrelevance. And instead, she gestured to the memorial, to the humans and aliens working together throughout the chamber, to the view screens showing Council species colonies on death worlds across the galaxy. Instead, you taught us that being strong enough to help others is more valuable than being strong enough to stand alone. That lesson may have saved our civilizations." They stood together in companionable silence, watching as council representatives from 100 species walked past the memorial, many touching it gently, paying respects to the moment when everything changed. Somewhere beyond Earth's orbit, in the darkness between stars where observation was possible without detection, the architects watched. Their mathematical forms processed the transformation spreading through galactic. Civilization was something that might have been satisfaction. The intervention was successful, one noted. The galaxy is no longer in decline. The humans provided the necessary catalyst. Chaos. Challenge. The reminder that safety without growth is just slow extinction. Yes, for the first time in millennia, the future is uncertain again. Uncertainty breeds adaptation. Adaptation breeds evolution. Evolution breeds potential. Humans will spread further, make more of the galaxy dangerous again, uncomfortable again. Yes. And in doing so, make it alive again. The architects faded from observable space, leaving behind a galaxy that was learning to be worthy of its potential again. Learning that the species who survived the deadliest world in known space had learned the most important lesson of all, that civilization was not built by avoiding danger. It was built by facing danger together, by choosing to be strong enough not just to survive, but to help others survive alongside you. The students who once laughed at Earth now competed for the honor of training there. The species who mocked humanity's death world now rushed to colonize similar planets. The council that judged humans as too dangerous for civilization now understood that danger, properly channeled, was exactly what civilization needed to avoid stagnation. Earth's representatives walked among the stars not as conquerors or victims, but as partners and teachers, and the galaxy, for the first time in thousands of years, looked toward the future with anticipation rather than comfortable certainty, because humanity had reminded them all that the best civilizations were not built in safety. They were forged in challenge, tested by adversity, and strengthened by the choice to protect rather than dominate, to teach rather than rule, to lift others up rather than stand alone at the summit. The death world's children had come to the stars, and they brought with them not just strength, but the wisdom to use that strength in service of something greater than themselves. The galaxy would never be the same, and that, everyone finally understood, was exactly what it needed. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.5